Earlier that morning, around the time Franklin discovered his clothes and car were missing, Max pulled into the driveway of the address listed on Franklin's driver's license. There's a nice house, a small bicycle leaning against the wall of the garage. Max sat in the car for a while, thinking, wondering, but still without tears. His night at the motel passed quickly, and he didn't go out for a run until dawn. He was surprised that he didn't feel worse. Perhaps he was still in shock. He walked to the front door, taking out Franklin's wallet with his driver's license, rang the bell, and a young woman who looked to be in her 20s, attractive, but a little frazzled, opened the door. Max was wearing a suit that he had bought the day before in New York, a white shirt that now looked rumpled, and no tie. He didn't look his best, but he hoped he didn't look threatening. He held up Franklin's driver's license so the woman could see it, and pointed at the gold Mercedes. Before he could say anything, the woman slammed the door in his face, but then opened it again a few seconds later, holding her cell phone in her hand. "I have 911 on my phone, and I'm ready to press send if you don't tell me my husband is okay." "Ma'am, I have a photo on my phone of your husband and my wife in bed at night, naked and fast asleep. To be honest, I don't think there's anything wrong with your husband, or with my wife either. If you want to call 911, call 911, and I'll just wait in the car." They looked at each other for a moment until her face fell, and she opened the door to let him in. She started to say something when they both heard "Mommy" from the kitchen. "Wait here, I'll be right back." She turned away, heading back to what Max assumed was the kitchen. He heard voices, hers, and at least one of the children. She returned, handing him a cup of coffee. "I hope you drink black coffee. I have to get the kids ready for school and then take them. I'm afraid I trust you more than my husband now. You can stay here until I get back, and then we can talk." "Fine." "Okay," Max answered. "I'm afraid we're in the same boat." He sat down in the living room, and soon a woman appeared, with 2 children. She introduced him as Dad's friend and walked out the door with them. Max just sat there, drank some not-so-good coffee, thought about calling his office, but ended up just sitting there. When the woman returned, she silently ran up the stairs to the living room. A few minutes later, she came back down, looking better with her hair combed and her lips a little tinted. She extended her hand to Max. As they shook hands, she introduced herself. "Sorry for the recent commotion. I am Molly Thompson, currently married to Franklin Thompson, who is currently involved with the woman you are currently married to." Max couldn't help but laugh at her turn of phrase, and it felt good to laugh. "You are absolutely right about all the current events at the moment. My name is Max Tronder, and my wife's current name is Camilla Tronder." He then explained what happened last night and saw Molly's tears begin to flow. "I'm divorcing Camilla, and I'm sure the photographs will help me get a decent settlement. I can send them to your phone if you think you might need them." "Yes, I think I should have them," Molly answered, looking at Max with dead eyes. He reached for his phone but stopped when she said, "Wait, don't send them to me. If I see them, I will never get those pictures out of my head. You keep them, and if I need them, I can call you. Right?" "Of course," Max said, but then added, "I probably won't be at my current job for long, and I definitely won't be in my current house anymore. I will give you the contact details of my lawyer. You can always contact him if you need photography or any help in a divorce situation." "Okay, thank you," Molly said. "But what should we do right now? Are you returning the car? Are you going to wait for Franklin and try to beat him up? You've seen him. He's a pretty big guy, even though he's put on a little weight. Yesterday, he was supposed to be in Atlanta for some car meeting and stay there overnight. He should be home this afternoon. You know, I kind of like this car, and I've never driven a Mercedes before. I think I'll keep it until someone forces me to return it. Your husband, and I must say his name to me is asshole, may have—" Molly laughed, and then Max joined in, both of them needing all the release they could find. "Actually, the car is registered in my name," Molly said. "For some tax reason, I think more depreciation Franklin, or should I say asshole, put it in my name since I drive more than he does. And," she paused thoughtfully, then continued, "you know, since I own this car, I can issue you a permit to drive, and the cops can call me to confirm if you get pulled over. Max liked the idea, but didn't respond, since Molly was obviously still working out the plan. And one more thing, she said. There have been a lot of break-ins in our area lately. You have Franklin's keys and clothes? If the key we're hiding in the backyard is missing when he gets here, he might try to break in. And if our security system is set to instant alert mode, he will attract interesting attention from the police. Molly, I think I'm falling in love again. You are wonderful. Okay, calm down. Franklin can just wait to come back until the kids and I get home from school this afternoon, but I can pick them up and go to the park for a while. Let's give him more time to get into even more trouble. Whatever happens, please let me know, especially if he does get into trouble with the police. And call me when you need your car back. I don't want you to get into any trouble. We'll be done. Now you need to get out of here, and so do I. Max drove off in a beautiful gold Mercedes, wondering how much the same one, only in a better color, would cost. Molly gave him the permission slip, and he assumed she would get the hidden key, set the alarm, and leave for the rest of the day. Camille and Franklin actually arrived at Franklin's house around noon. Camilla dropped him off and quickly rushed off as if she was trying to avoid further infection. Franklin walked to his front door, hoping that it might not be locked because Molly was home, but at the same time, afraid that she might be there. Of course it was locked, and he hurried around the house to the rock in the backyard, where they kept the spare key. But the stone disappeared. Oh shit, he muttered, looking at the back of his house, wondering if he should break in. He tried to open the back door, but it was also locked, so he decided that he really had no choice but to force his way inside. He looked at the windows along the back wall, wondering which one would be best to break. He stopped at the window into the family room. The window was the largest at the back, and breaking it would give him more room to enter the house. He broke a branch from the tree he was about to trim and examined the window. Since he was barefoot, he needed a way to get through the broken window glass, which he could break. He pulled 2 chairs from the back porch and placed them next to the window. He thought he could climb over the chairs to avoid the glass and then just be careful when he entered the living room. A few deep breaths, and he was ready to go. Franklin threw a branch through the family room window and it shattered with a satisfying crack, followed immediately, unfortunately for Franklin, by the wailing sound of the home alarm system siren. To make things even more unfortunate, the police car just happened to be driving down his street, as Molly had called the local police station that morning to complain about potential break-ins in their area. Damn, Franklin muttered, trying to quickly climb over the chairs to get into the house and disable the damn security system, but not fast enough. Police! Stop right there and slowly walk away from the house. Raise your hands up. Franklin looked back and saw 2 policemen with pistols. He did as he was told and only cut his legs slightly as he climbed off the chairs and backed away. Officers, I can explain, he began to say when one of the policemen put his hands behind his back and handcuffed him. The policeman ignored his attempt to explain himself and read out his rights. The policeman then asked if he wanted to say anything. Yes, this is my house and I, don't have a key, so I broke in to get some clothes and call my office. The cops were looking at Franklin's tracksuit, perhaps thinking clown clothes, when one of them asked him if he had any identification. No, not now. You see, I lost my car and all my clothes and stuff, and I just need to get inside so I can get some real clothes. How did you lose your car, sir? Well, last night I stayed at a friend's house, and this morning the car, wasn't there. It just wasn't, huh? Have you reported a mysterious disappearance? Maybe you left it in a bar somewhere? Franklin was stumped. He didn't want to reveal where he was or why he didn't report the car missing, but he also didn't want to go to jail for trying to break into his own home. And the handcuffs were really uncomfortable. Then he came up with a solution that might work. You can call my wife. She can identify me. And perhaps you could take me to my office. I can ask someone there to help me get some clothes. He knew he'd put up with a lot of crap at the dealership, but it was a lot better than going to jail. One of the cops took Molly's phone number from Franklin and went to call her. Franklin could hear the police part of the conversation. "Ma'am, this is Riles from the Charlotte Police Department. We are at the address." He gave the address. "And we have a man here who claims to be your husband. He tried to break into your house because he lost his clothes and—" "Yes, ma'am?" "No, ma'am." Yes, ma'am. We will, of course, do this." "Thank you, ma'am." He turned back to Franklin. "The lady says her husband is in Atlanta, and anyone who breaks into her house must be a burglar. She hopes we throw you in jail and throw away the key. But... Franklin was almost crying as the cops led him to their patrol car to take him to the station. And Camilla. She arrived at her office half a day late, but she will make up for lost time. Still thinking about Max, since she still hadn't heard from him, she called his cell phone, but no one answered. She then called his office again. "Hello, Sheila," Camilla again. "I'm starting to get a little worried about Max since I still haven't heard anything from him. And you?" "No, I have nothing new. I guess this means he's still in New York with the lawyers, but it's really not like him to not call. You do seem a little worried, so I'll call there and check on him, and either he or I will call you back in a few minutes. Fine?" "Thank you, Sheila. You are the best secretary in the world." A few minutes later, Camilla actually received a call back. "Camilla, this is Sheila. I talked to one of the secretaries at the law office, and she said Max left late yesterday, hoping to catch the last flight to Charlotte. So I called Max on his cell phone to check on him. I did talk to him, and he asked me to tell him that he would call later." "Fine." "Thank you, Sheila. Thank you," Camille said, disconnected. A snake began to grow in the depths of her stomach. Max hung up after talking to Sheila. He was driving a gold Mercedes to see a divorce lawyer recommended by Fred Thomas, his longtime business lawyer. He trusted his business lawyer and hoped he could trust his divorce lawyer. "Mr. Thronder, please take a seat." "Miss Reinhardt will be with you in a minute," the secretary told him. He sat down, somewhat reassured by the lawyer's office. No expensive furniture, but not cheap-looking either. Before he had time to worry further, a 50-year-old, somewhat plump lady with obviously dyed red hair entered the waiting room. "Mr. Thronder?" Max stood up and nodded, and she continued, "I'm Anna Reinhardt. Fred called and told me to take the best possible care of you. Let's go into my office and talk about your situation." Max followed her into a nice but not luxurious office, took coffee from the secretary, and told his story. He found a cheating wife, wanted a divorce, and also wanted to protect his assets, especially the proceeds from the sale of his company and his sister's company. He skipped the part of the story that concerned the golden Mercedes, although he suspected that Anna might find it funny. "Max, is it okay if I call you that?" He nodded, and she continued, "And I'm Anna. Good news, well, relatively good news considering your situation. Fred told me that you and your sisters owned your company before you married your wife, so your shares are considered separate property. That is, your wife has no rights to the shares of your company or to the proceeds of the sale, but you need to keep the shares and sale proceeds separate from any joint account you and your wife may have. This is true?" "I think so. But what about our house, retirement accounts, and the like?" "Well, there's not such good news for you. Since your salary is much higher than hers, you will be paying some child support for several years. We can probably avoid paying anything into the retirement account by increasing the amount of alimony. I know it's not attractive, but the short-term pain avoids what's usually worse, having to share your retirement money decades in the future. And your kids are in college, so no child support. I assume you don't mind being on the hook for the rest of their college expenses?" "Yes, that's suitable." "What about the house?" "You and your wife must decide what you want. You may decide to sell it and split the proceeds, or one of you can buy the other's portion based on the current appraised value. After what I saw last night, I definitely don't want this house. I don't think Camilla can afford to buy my half, so I guess that means selling. Okay, I can do the paperwork this way. The divorce petition is a pretty standard form, so I can have it ready for you tomorrow, early if you'd like, so we can serve it to her tomorrow afternoon. A proposed settlement could then follow next week." "God, that's pretty fast." Mr. Thronder, Max, listen to me. If there's a chance for you and your wife that some counseling or just a little time could... No, no, actually, it's just a shock for me. I mean, less than 24 hours ago, I was happy. I couldn't wait to get home to my wife and tell her the good news about the sale of the company. And now I'm sitting here talking about filing for divorce, but we must move forward. I'll figure out how to deal with this. Okay, but if you change your mind, just call me and we can work things out.